coming to you from Rockingham, IPL Radio.
Thank you for the music, and that's for all of our singing friends
buddies,
and especially Rob. That intro. Okay, Jane, let's get on with our interview today. Are we ready?
We're ready.
Now, I said on our show that I'm needing to draw upon your experience today, so thank you very much. And helping provide that first-hand experience and knowledge so that we can really ask our guest today the right questions. So are you good to go?
I'm good to go. Just clarifying that my special knowledge is that I'm a woman.
That's all that's needed because that's what I'm not. So... But truly, thank you for being here today.
It's my absolute pleasure.
This is going to be lots of fun. Now we've got a special guest today. Now, hang on, just let me click so I can. There's Sheradyn's face. Now, our guest today is via a Zoom chat, and Jane and I are talking with Sheradyn Dekker. Now, Sheradyn is a nutritionist, and she has a very impressive CV. Sheradyn has a sports science degree from Notre Dame University, a master's in nutrition from Deakin University, and has undertaken postgraduate studies in functional diagnostic nutrition. Now, what that is, I'm sure we'll find out in a few minutes. So let's find out a bit more. Good morning, Sheradyn, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Now, we'll disclose straight away, we were talking yesterday, you and Jane and I, and we had a great chat, and I think we filled in 40 minutes just having a bit of a yarn, didn't we? So we'll easily do that today. Now, Sheradyn, you have a very modern platform for your services, and it's not really the normal face-to-face type of thing. So tell me more about how you operate and what you do, please.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a gut health nutritionist. So I work primarily with women all around Australia, but also the world, which is exciting. So I do have a few international clients. And basically, I always wanted to build an online business because it makes something quite accessible. But also, I grew up rural Western Australia, so down in Albany, and I was living in Queensland at the time. But I just knew that one day I would want to be back in WA, which I am now. And I thought, well, I'm going to build this online business, and this was prior to COVID and, a lot of things going online. And yeah, I now see women worldwide via Zoom calls primarily. That's sort of my main point of contact with them, but because I have group programs and Facebook groups and podcasts and things, there's a lot of other points of contact, but my day-to-day consulting is through Zoom. So, yes.
That's excellent. Now, what do you really focus on? You said you work, primarily with women and their health. What's your real focus here in terms of nutrition?
Yeah, so I guess because I started from a real sports nutrition aspect in a sense, like I did the sports science stuff, and that was really interesting and loved it because I grew up playing a lot of sport, and I thought, you know what, I just classic, teenagers like, I'm just going to study sport because that'll be fun. And then I did that and was like, Sheradyn, this is not a career path. You need to go on to be a physio or do OT or do exercise physiology or something a little bit more specific rather than just a sports scientist is so general. And then I fell in love with the nutrition side of things and started, studying down that pathway, which was really good because it sort of gave me quite a holistic approach of health then as well. At the same time, I was doing some personal training and I was strongly into CrossFit myself. So I was very involved in different dynamics of sports and nutrition. But what I found was I was going through a lot of my own health journey and health struggles at the time. And I found people were treating, external symptoms with almost what I want to call a Band-Aid approach. So rather than getting to the root cause of what was going on with these gut and hormone issues, it was kind of like, if you just tweak your diet slightly or change your exercise slightly, you'll get rid of all these health issues. And that wasn't the case at all. There was a lot deeper root causes going on. So then, for me, it was like, okay, can I go beyond diet and exercise and understand what's actually going on with these guts and with these hormone imbalances and these bloating and these quote unquote IBS diagnosis. That's when I sort of went down the functional testing route to really understand, okay, what's going on and how do we identify these
And Fleetwood Mac. Now, we should be back with Sheradyn and everything like that. We've been out there and given those hamsters on the treadmill a beating. They are not going to slow down again. So now,
great song.
Let's pick up where we left off. Sheradyn, you were partway through sort of describing your own experiences here. Can you I guess let's do a little and a backtrack, and we'll start that question again.
Yeah, so I guess I work online with women primarily, so helping them get to the root cause of what's going on with their gut and hormone issues, and that just comes from my own experiences. So when I first got sick, I got glandular fever when I was 17, 18. So I had been to Bali a couple times. I'd done a little bit of travel, and I essentially got a stomach bug in Bali, and I just thought it was classic Bali belly. Came home and was sick for a week or two, and then I was sort of okay for a week, and then I remember just all these symptoms started coming on, and went to GP and was like, you've got glandular fever. It was in my first year of uni, so my first year of sports science, and just being really fatigued and really tired and really exhausted and on medications and different things. Just couldn't go to uni and was trying to work from home and all this stuff. Anyway, I eventually got over it, but I could no longer tolerate gluten. So I developed a gluten sensitivity, and I also lost my periods, and I also got really, really stressed. And I had all this onset of gut issues as well. So a lot of severe bloating, severe constipation, a lot of stomach pain. My acne got really bad. Just all this stuff that sort of started around that point and went on for the next 7 or 8 years. So I didn't have periods for about 8 years, and I had all the gut issues for all that time as well. And I was really healthy, like quote unquote healthy, and this is sort of what gave me the passion to start my business, because there were so many women like me who were doing quote unquote the right things and were exercising and were eating well. And, you know, that's why I did sports science and I did nutrition, because I wanted to help people to be healthy and be happy. But I realized it wasn't enough. Like, I was personal training with these women and helping them change their diets, and they were still having gut issues or acne or hormonal issues or fatigue or all these things. And I was like, well, there's got to be something else going on. And because I was working through that journey myself, and then finally came across functional diagnostic nutrition, was like, oh, this is how we get to the root cause, because I'd spent thousands at that point on specialists and doctors and gynecologists and immunologists, and I'd seen everyone under the sun, and they were all like, well, you're a healthy, you know, early 20-year-old, you shouldn't be having all these issues. And I'm like, I'm exhausted. Like, I'm falling asleep at 1 p.m. This is not normal. I'm like, I'm so stressed, and I got just, there was so much going on, and just the stomach pain, and them just going, well, just take laxatives, or, you know, like, it's just bloating, it'll pass. And I was like, you don't understand. Like, I can't socialize. I couldn't go out. I couldn't do things. I didn't want to eat out. So it was quite debilitating from quite a few different sort of aspects. And then, yeah, understanding that, oh, if I do comprehensive stool testing, or there's different breath testing or comprehensive hormone testing, I actually started to understand what was going on with my body. I had all these parasites. I had these candida. I had these yeast overgrowths. I was menopausal. My adrenals were completely cooked. Like, my body was just absolutely exhausted. And this is someone who, yeah, is healthy, was always exercising and ate well. And
that's all before you're 23 or 24.
Yeah.
Jeez,
So
what was second prize? My goodness.
Yeah.
So some of these problems often, and this is a question for you and Jane, because I don't quite know, are these problems sometimes dismissed by doctors and men and others as just, let's put it in inverted commas, women's issues? Or how did you find it?
Well, I don't know if Jane has any of her own experiences, because most women have something that's happened to them at some point. But for me, it definitely was dismissed. And in all my clients who I see, the biggest thing they're saying is, my GP looked at my bloods and he said everything is normal, but I'm exhausted, my hair's falling out, I'm tired, I'm bloated, and my periods are painful and heavy. Like, there's this collection of symptoms that in reality they're saying you're fine, or if you're not quite fine, then maybe just go on the birth control pill, or you're not sleeping enough, you know, because you've got young children, or you're just a little bit stressed. Like, there's no solutions for it.
Are these are these things and these symptoms, do they, affect women differently, or, is it common for, I guess, some women some time, or is it a chronic condition in others? Is there any pattern or none at all?
Yeah, so there's a couple things to unpack there. One is that there is obviously the lifespan of a female, and different things will impact you at different times. Like I see a lot of perimenopausal women who, do have sort of an onset of symptoms as their hormonal, things shift. And then there's this A-type personality in women who I primarily deal with, who tend to be more stressed and then try to do more things and, be this mum who's amazing, doing all the things, as well as exercising, as well, trying to lose the post-baby weight, as well as trying to eat healthy, as well as trying to show up on social media and
Sounds familiar.
then...
Yep.
Yeah, we just cause this cyclic problem in a sense, as well as trying to have a career and work and earn money as well. So there's kind of those things, but I see, like, primarily I work with women in their menstruating years. So, sort of early 20s, say, is kind of where they start. And then up until, for me, it's kind of like mid 40s to early 50s is kind of my target market, because once you head into perimenopause, it's another whole ball game that I'm just like, it's a complicated thing in itself that I don't want to touch, really.
Gee, Sheradyn, you're unpacking a lot there, but I want to drill down into a very specific term that you used there. So, in working with your clients, you talked about the concept of root cause. Now, as an engineer, I'm quite familiar with that term because we use it amongst other things for safety investigations and things like understanding component or equipment failure. So, you've certainly sparked my interest. Now, in applying root cause principles, you aim to help women find the underlying cause of their symptoms and look at that through gut and or gut health and nutrition. How do you educate them and how do you address this? What's the process? Take me through this root cause from a nutritional point of view.
Yeah, so it's something I'm really personally passionate about, and it's across all my podcasts, all my Instagram, all my website, because we have this Band-Aid approach, I like to call it, from the medical system. And it was really apparent to me, and I find the medical system has a really important role in keeping us alive, and, antibiotics and medications and things that are really, really important. And I never, ever want to dismiss that. But when we're looking at how well your body is functioning, and yes, you might be alive, but you're not functioning well, what is causing that? And to me, that's when we come in with this root cause approach. So, for example, something like IBS or irritable bowel syndrome is a real common catchphrase that doctors will use to describe a host of different digestive upsets. And there might be constipation, might be loose stools, it might be bloating, whatever it is. And you've got the label IBS. And that, these women are coming to me saying, oh, but I've got IBS. And I'm like, yeah, but why? Okay, so why do you have that? And they're like, oh, well, I don't know. That's what my GP said. I'm like, okay, well, what's the cause of it? It's an umbrella approach for sure. So then we're like, well, let's run some comprehensive stool testing. And then you find the most common cause of IBS is SIBO, so intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So you can pick that up from a multitude of ways. Maybe it's traveling, maybe it's parasites, maybe it's poor food quality, whatever it is. You pick up these bacteria. I'm just going to keep it really simple. You get these bacteria, they embed in your small intestine, or maybe they overgrow from your large intestine, because there shouldn't be all this bacteria in your small intestine, and then they cause a host of digestive symptoms, most commonly bloating or severe fullness, diarrhea or constipation. So they are what is causing your quote unquote irritable bowel. So it's irritating your digestive system because you've got all this bacteria that's there that shouldn't be there, in a sense. So that, to me, is a root cause, because it's like, well, this is why this is happening. But then you can also step it back one more layer and go, yeah, okay, but why do you have SIBO? Was it just because you went overseas, and I see this a lot, and you picked up some parasites and you ate some food that wasn't cooked properly and therefore it's there? Or Are you stressed? Do you have poor motility? Is your diet out of whack? Do you have low stomach acid and you're not breaking down food properly? Therefore, it's feeding this bacteria. Therefore, you're getting these digestive issues. So there's layers to it as well. And I think that's where it gets tricky for people, because it's really hard to unpack all that with your own health.
So Sheradyn, just say, thank you for that. Just say I'm in my early 50s and I've at my wit's end about my digestion, and I'm bloating and just not feeling, I'm feeling fatigued and tired. And I send you an email. I find you online. I send you an email going, these are my symptoms. What happens then?
So from a real practical point of view, usually I go book in for a free chat so that I can actually talk it through with you, because I love to talk and I love to have more information. But from, sort of a practitioner point of view, my brain initially, when I sort of talk to that person, starts to go, okay, well, there could be a hormonal picture there with estrogen playing around, and that could cause a change in bowel movements or bloating. I'd start to get someone to track it and go, is it cyclitic? How's it playing around with your monthly cycle? What's happening with that? And then also from another point of view, where have you been recently? What's your stress like? Has your diet changed? Have you had any surgery, any change in medication? So all that sort of surface level stuff. And then if someone goes, yep, I want to know more, then we'd go, okay, let's get some functional testing done. So basically, because I work online, I laugh at this, but people always think that I literally collect poo samples and I have them at home and I grow the bacteria in them. And I stress I do not do that. But basically, I've got some really good labs. RN Labs is one of them. And I put the practitioner request through and go, okay, Jane needs a Dutch test, which is the comprehensive urine testing, which looks at your adrenals and your whole hormonal picture. And I won't go into it because it is really complex, but basically it just tells me everything that's going on, how the body's breaking it down, how the liver's detoxing each of these hormones. And I can tell you where, why certain issues are occurring from a hormonal point of view. And then I would also get the labs to send you a stool test kit, and you'd complete that at home and send that back to the lab as well. And basically they grow your stool and they see what grows out of it, whether it's candida or yeast, or they look at the parasite DNA fragments in it and tell me if you've picked up different parasites and they're causing some of your gut issues. Yeah, the results come back to me and we go through it, and then you sort of make a plan from there, like hierarchy. Like I always tell people, I look at it as a pyramid approach. Your gut health is at the bottom, and that is the key, and that's our first point of call to fix that. And then your thyroid, your hormones, your adrenals, everything else is further up. So if we don't have those foundations right, which looks like your nutrition, any of those root causes that might be, aggravating those gut symptoms, gut microbiome, digestion, if you can't absorb your nutrients, well, there's going to be issues further up with your thyroid and your adrenals. So it's working through that process with someone.
So how long does that all take, like from the very first email to you to doing that process you've just described?
Yeah, so I actually changed the way, touching on business briefly here, I changed the way I practice with people. So I used to just do single consults and kind of work through that and go, okay, well, if I see you in, 2 weeks or something, and then after that you get your testing, and the testing usually takes about a 2 to 3 week turnaround, unless it's comprehensive hormone testing, then it's about 8-week turnaround, plus you've got to get that done around your cycle as well, so days 19 to 21, so there's taking all that into time frame. So then it could really push out how long I see people. And I found when we lose that touch point with someone, or you don't have that continued support, the drop-off rate is really high in that investment in our health, in a sense. So I now work with women in what I call the 6-month root cause program. So they, sign up to work with me. We have their initial consult. They get all their tests. Usually they come in a couple of days. So kind of in that first couple of weeks, they start making dietary changes, which I must say, in that first 4 weeks, I see massive reductions in bloating, in bowel movements, in energy. Like I see a big change just from some really specific dietary tweaks with people, and then they conduct the testing, and then it can take anywhere, depends. Like, depends how long someone's had gut issues. Most of these women have had gut issues for 10 plus years. So you're looking, 6 months at a bare minimum to sort of make those changes. Hormones take minimum 3 cycles, so 3 months to really have a solid shift in things. Gut, it depends. If you're a chronic client to me and you've got toxic bacteria in there, plus parasites, plus yeast overgrowth, plus undergrowth of your good gut flora and a lot of inflammation and a high, like immune response in your gut, I'm like, you're looking at 12 months to rebalance this stuff. If you've got chronic SIBO, so it's really high, like on the chart, as in you're producing a lot of gas, so you're fermenting a lot of food, then again, you're looking at minimum 3 to 6 months to start to get that bacteria down, because it just takes so much time.
Sheradyn, I like the fact that you emphasise that this process isn't an overnight or a quick fix, and it may take some time. It's refreshing to have that approach and that level of frankness when there seems to be so many instant or supposed instant solutions being touted around the place. Now, you've already mentioned your 6-month root cause program, and that's I think that's a big part of your services, if I'm right there. But as well as that, you do your one-on-one consultations, but there's also, I see on your website, what you call your 6-week gut health program. Can you tell us a bit more about that one?
Yeah, so what I found is that one of the biggest barriers to health and the biggest barriers to change for the women I was working with was finances, right? So how do I put this? Before someone comes into doing testing with me up front, before they even book into my services, I'm like, this is the cost of the testing. You're looking at $300 to $400 for a stool test or for a comprehensive urine test. Like, this stuff isn't cheap. So if you're going to commit that kind of money to testing and to my services and to the supplements and things, like, this is kind of the amount that you're looking at. And it, like I said, it takes time. It's a long-term fix. So it's for the rest of your life, but it's going to take time to correct. And some women go and look, I just don't have the budget for that. And I'm like, I get that. Like, I was a uni student when I was going through it all, and I was in such chronic pain that, my parents held me out at the time because I was in my early 20s, and, it was just a hard thing. So I'm like, well, what's another way I can help women besides the free stuff, like my free Facebook group or my podcast, that they can still start to make these changes, but they don't have the $500-$600 to invest in testing right now. And that's through this self-paced 6-week program. So basically it steps you through the fundamental changes that I do with all my quote unquote women in those first couple of weeks to start working them, which is tracking your trigger foods, removing your trigger foods, understanding what's going on, adding the healing foods in, adding your nutrient dense foods in. So just all those foundational changes that everyone needs to do anyway.
Sheradyn, you've been talking a lot about women and your website's all about helping women. What about men? Surely they have these kind of issues too.
Yeah, so I guess it's the same approach with men. Like, if they are ready to make that commitment to their health and go, I'm tired of being really bloated, or, like I said, not being able to have that beer because you end up in so much stomach pain because of the gluten aspect in it, then it's the same process of going down that testing, making those dietary changes, taking the supplements and herbs to rebalance that microbiome or kill off any parasites or things that are in there. So it's a similar approach, but generally I just find it needs to be done if they are in a relationship. It's a lot easier to do it as a family or as a couple or as a husband and wife or whatever, because if generally they both have gut issues anyway, it's just that the guy is not willing to make the changes, is what I've seen with my clients. Like, most of them say, oh, my husband, because parasites move around between couples. If you're sharing a bed, it's highly likely that you both got the same parasite. If you travel together or eating the same food or been camping, whatever it is, you generally have similar kind of gut issues. So it's easier when you're both doing it because there is a dietary change. And the biggest stressor for these young mums, I find, is when they're trying to cook a meal for themselves that's not including all their trigger foods, and their husband and their family are eating something completely different. And they're like, Sheradyn, this is so hard. Like, I need to separate things. So if it was a whole family going through it, or, you know, a couple going through it together, it would be a lot easier. And then they're more supportive of each other. And then you remind each other to take your antimicrobials or take your probiotics or whatever. It's a lot easier approach.
I'm sure it is. No woman wants to be a short order cook at the end of the day. Sheradyn, on your website, which has got so much fabulous information, you share interviews and conversations on, as well as providing real life stories. What other resources are there that you can share with us from your website?
Yeah, from my website. So I have my podcast on my website, so the Empowered Hormones podcast with Sheradyn Dekker. So that's got a lot of information, different specialists I've had on. I've met the most amazing women on there from all different, different areas, whether it's exercise or health or thyroid or fertility or whatever it is. So I've got a real host of different people there, but really also I've got some great podcast episodes going into the nitty-gritty of gut testing and hormone testing, and why, you know, some are superior to blood testing and why I don't really rate blood testing and I prefer these tests instead, as well as my stories and things. But I've also got some short courses on there for people. So the Gut Health Solution, which is a 6-week course, but also like my nutritional strategies for IBS. So just some simple tips and tricks around constipation and loose stools, and going, you've got these symptoms, what can we do right now to make a change, as opposed to going, well, I've got to wait to do the testing and then I've got to wait for my results and then I've got to wait to book in with Sheradyn. And that's like, you know, this whole time frame. I go, no, there's stuff you can do today that are actually going to make a difference. Even though it's not a root cause approach, I really say that to people, like there are changes you can make today that aren't getting to the root of the issue, that may not be tackling that parasite, but they're going to improve the quality of your life right now. And that's really important as well.
So it's a good place for women to start.
Yes, 100%. The podcast is probably my favorite resource because I get so much good feedback on it and people can listen to it at their own pace, and also it covers a range of topics. And I'm really active on my Instagram, classic Sheradyn, but I live on there. So a lot of women will listen to the podcast and then send me messages and be like, I just listened to this was amazing, or I implemented this and it, you know, changed my energy or whatever. So it's fun for me to record, it's fun to interview, but it also makes really big changes in people's lives, which is amazing.
How does that make you feel?
It's good. It's very heartwarming.
Is that the satisfying part of the business?
Yeah, it is. And it's funny because I would never have started a podcast, right? Like, I've always been extroverted, that I love public speaking, and I've always loved running workshops and seminars and all that kind of stuff. I just loved it. Even when I was in uni, I loved presenting. It was really fun and I enjoy it. But podcast actually was from my first business coach when I just started business, and she was like, Sheradyn, you need to start a podcast. And I was like, no, you don't understand. Yeah, I've got enough stuff to do. I can't even imagine starting a podcast. Like, where, what, how? But I did it, and it's now 1.5 years old, I think. And it's just been the best thing from a business point of view, but from helping women. And also these things, like, I get asked the same questions all the time, you know, like always the same stuff.
Yep.
So now I can go listen to episode 20 or episode 5 or whatever it is, and I'm not just repeating myself all the time.
It's almost like a set of frequently asked questions, and you go, right, here's what you can listen to, and then come and talk with me. Look, Sheradyn, let's get away from the nitty-gritty of things for a while and tell us more about yourself. You know, where did you grow up? You've talked about Albany and moving around, and what do you do when you're not talking about guts and nutrition and poo samples and all of that sort of stuff?
Yes, I know. It does. It is me. I said that to someone the other day. I was like, my business is my baby, but it's the way I identify myself now. And when it's your name as well, when you're like, wow, you're literally selling yourself every day. But it just becomes such, like, if I didn't have my business, I almost would have to do a whole re-identity check, because I don't know who I'd be without Sheradyn Dekker. Like, it's interesting. But yeah, I grew up down south, so from Perth, down in Albany, which was was great. We had the best childhood. We're always fishing or surfing or traveling or camping. We just grew up really outdoorsy. I had a really healthy, fun upbringing. My parents were both into a lot of stuff. So that was really cool. Lots of trips to Northern Territory, over to South Australia, up to Exmouth fishing. Like, we just got out and about lots. So it was really, really good. And then, when I was 17, 18, I did a gap year because I was rural, so worked full-time for a year to save the money to move to Perth. And then, moved to Perth, did sports science at Notre Dame, which great university, loved it. So good. I actually graduated top of my class, which was surprising because I was not in year 11 and 12. Like I'm just a mediocre person. Like, I just work hard, but I'm not particularly smart.
That's what they all say.
There's no such thing as an overnight success.
You are a wizard. Yes.
No, I just loved studying. I think that was my thing. And then I finished sports science and then was like, I don't want to do exercise physiology. It's too clinical for me. I don't want to do dietetics because I didn't want to be a dietitian, because I had seen dietitians and I could see, and this is the catch, like I could see dietitians are regulated by quite a strict Australian Board of Dietetics and stuff, whereas nutritionists aren't, because we kind of fly under the radar a little bit more. We're just not as regulated because we're not under those same Medicare restrictions in a sense. So people don't get Medicare if they come and see me, which, yes, that puts up a barrier, but it also means I can work in a way generally that a dietitian can't, in the way I prescribe and the different things I do, because I'm just not under those same tight regulating bodies. That was a big sort of thing for me, going, what do I want to do that's not too clinical and that's really hands-on? And then, did my Master's of Nutrition through Deakin University, so that was all external. And I also did my TAE, so my trainer and assessor. So when I finished, or while I was doing my nutrition studies, I was lecturing Cert 3 and 4 in fitness, so some face-to-face stuff as well as working for online RTOs as well. So I actually did a bit of that for a couple of years and worked for different RTOs while I was doing nutrition, and then went on to do the functional diagnostic nutrition. And that's when I started learning about all my health stuff, and the whole light bulb moment was just like, why do we not know about this? Like, how? Like, what? Like, it was just, and I had this moment. I went in for a bone marrow biopsy, right? Because they were just like, you're neutropenic, we don't know what's going on, you've got no white blood cells, you've got no immune system. And it was the worst experience of all the testing I'd had done. And I'd had everything like brain MRIs, and they pulled a bit of bone marrow out, which was just excruciating.
That's horrendous, yes.
And they're looking for leukemia, going, well, this girl's got no white blood cells. What is going on? And she's just so inflamed, but there was no medical diagnosis for it. And it was after that appointment that I was just like, I need to do something about this, because it came back fine, obviously, because I didn't have, and I still to this day don't have a medical condition like that. Like, it was just this, I had so many symptoms that just had no reason for that. When I came across functional diagnostic nutrition and it just started explaining all this stuff, I was just like, this is my goal. Like, this is my thing. We need to educate and empower. And for me at the time, it was women, because of the whole period aspect as well. And I was like, am I ever going to have kids? Because I'm supposedly healthy, but I'm not cycling at all. And what's wrong with my body? And it was just this eye-opening moment. And then I thought I was so alone. Like, I didn't know anyone else like me, and everyone thought I was so just trying to be skinny and healthy, and that's why I didn't eat a lot of foods and things. And I was like, you don't understand. Like, I'm in pain every single night on the couch. I cannot go out and I cannot socialize. My life is nothing, kind of thing. So it was just really interesting, sort of being like going through that journey. And now I pull women together. I have these Facebook groups and I have these communities, and I try to create that, because I'm like, you're not alone. Like, no, you don't have a label of this is your diagnosis, which is a blessing in itself, because having that label is actually really scary too. But at the same time, then you feel like you're just being a hypochondriac, like you're just overreacting about everything when there is reasons for what's going on. And that's always been really important to me to address that and go, no, you're justified in the way you're feeling, because I can see that with these testings. I can see your adrenals are completely burnt out and your gut is completely out of whack.
Sheradyn, I can see that you're so passionate about what you do. It's
Amazingly.
wonderful. Yeah, it really is. And your story and your history to where you are now. So it must be so satisfying for you. What success stories can you share with us for some of your clients?
Oh, there's so many. Some of my favourites are those who go from, I had this lady the other day, she had her son's wedding in a couple of weeks, and she contacted me and she was just at her wit's end, and she's just like, I just am having chronic loose stools every day, like 5-10 times a day. She's like, I'm just exhausted. I can't lose this extra weight. I've got my son's wedding. I'm worried about, just being sick on the day, reacting to things. We had enough time to get some testing done and things, but within the first couple of weeks of making some dietary changes and adjusting a few things, and she didn't have an awful diet or anything, but there was key triggers in there that I was like, remove that, regular bowel movements every day, no bloating, has lost like 9 kilos in 7 weeks, which is just from inflammation and fluid retention. And it wasn't, I mean, some of it, yeah, sure, might have been a bit of fat loss, but it's not like she started exercising like crazy. It was just this shift. And she was like, I feel so much better, and I've got my son's wedding. And she's like, this has just been life-changing for me. And she's like, she's in her early 40s, I think. And she's like, I've had these issues for years. So there's stuff like that. Yeah. The women with the chronic bloating, like I have so many women who have really severe SIBO overgrowth, and just the bloating, they'll have like a glass of water and their whole stomach swells up. Like the photos I have are phenomenal. And then to see it come down, a lady sent me a photo the other day and just had a flat stomach, as in not because she was so skinny, but because all her bloating, like she looked pregnant every day and she was not pregnant, and it was just flat and normal. She's like, I feel like myself again. Like it's just
fantastic.
Such a flip. Yeah. Those things, and the hormonal shifts, like women getting their libido back, or having pain-free periods again, or, just those
living
things
their life.
that are living their life, which should be normal and are not normal.
Sheradyn, COVID, last couple of years, has that had any effect on affecting our guts?
I find, so it's a tricky topic because there's an immune component and there's a hormone component. So from the immune type aspect, I do see some women who have lowered immunity reacting differently to getting sick, but the fatigue after it as well, and how they're recovering. So less of a gut aspect, but more I see of an adrenal and a hormonal aspect. So there's this sort of, I don't know, from what I've picked up from my clients, a lot of them are like, I'm not recovering well, that whole long COVID aspect. And when we're running adrenal work on them, like saliva testing or urine testing, I'm seeing a lot of burnt out adrenal glands. And I don't know whether it's a combination of the extra stresses of COVID from the last 2 years, as well as the virus itself. And then some women found a lot of changes around their cycles with the vaccines as well. So then there's that extra play, or that extra blood loss, or that extra fatigue, or those sides of things, as opposed to directly impacting their microbiome.
Okay, thanks for that. That's interesting.
Sheradyn, we've talked a lot about your website, and both Jane and I have been looking at it and trawling through it and everything like that. And there's some wonderful resources, and it really points people in the direction of where they might need to go. Would you like to give our listeners the web address, and do you have other social media presence?
Yeah, for sure. And a note on that website, that's actually my third website. So I built my first two myself, which to anyone starting out in their business, if they're like, do I need a website, or who do I go with what, send me a message on Instagram, because I'll send you a voice message on the story behind websites. But yeah, I'm really proud of that website now. I work with a lovely small business owner, designer, who helped me build that to have all the things that I needed on there for my business. And it's a work in progress, and I'm building pages every day. And now I feel like I'm an IT guru with all my podcast editing and just changing things on my website all the time, which was a mission in itself when I first started learning.
Yes, it's a task, that's for sure.
It's huge. But yeah, basically it's just my name, which everyone spells Sheradyn wrong. So Sheradyn, Dekker, Dekker. So www.sheradyndekker.com is my website. But if you just Google Sheradyn Dekker, I'm sure it will come up. And then my Instagram, so where I mainly hang out, is just my name, so Sheradyn, and then _ functional nutrition. So that's probably the best two ways to get in contact with me. Everything's sort of on my website, but otherwise stalk me on social media and send me a message, because I'm really do spend a lot of time there, and I send a lot of voice messages on there. So if you send me a long question, I will just send you a voice message, because that's easy.
And you just say that you're an oversharer.
Yeah, yes, I am. I get told that all the time. And you'll learn that from my podcast very quickly. There's nothing with my health or my journey or anything that's off limits, because I want to be, and we use these words exactly when we were designing our website, as like the girl next door. So that person that you can just go, that's the vibe I'm giving across, is I'm the girl next door, and the person you can just ask questions to, because I don't want to have that barrier of I'm some specialist and, you know, you've got to keep your distance, or I'm like a GP or anything, but I'm absolutely not. I'm just a normal girl who went through 10 years of struggles and is really passionate about these things, which is why now, yes, I have the skills to help diagnose and help, you know, make changes and prescribe things, but I'm still, at the end of the day, I'm just Sheradyn.
Well, I'll vouch for that. Yes, amply qualified and experienced, hard-earned personal experience as well as with your clients and everything. Look, it's been marvellous finding out more about you today, Sheradyn, and your story really is inspirational. You know, I love that your health journey brought you to where you are, and that you've used that and are still using that to help women with their health. So, and yes, I am talking with you, Jane and I are talking with you like the girl next door, and just have a chat. And truly, we could probably talk for another hour.
We might have to
very
do this
easily.
Yes.
So let's tie a bow around our chat today. Now, I get all of my interview guests to pick a favourite song and tell us why, and then we play it. So, Sheradyn, today, what's your song and why?
So my song was Blue Eyes by Geordie Maxwell, and this song actually came to me when I was in a sort of transition in my life, because a lot of people don't realise, but don't identify that a lot of their gut and hormone struggles come from not deeper issues going on, but struggles in their own life as well. So for me, it came to me at a time after my parents' divorce, and I had moved back to Albany after being away for a year in Queensland. I actually left to just get away from WA and have a fresh start and study my master's, and then I moved back after divorce just to be around my family. And it was a really hard time for me, because I'm a very empathetic person. So I take on a lot of the feelings and emotions of people around me. So I'd moved back kind of going, okay, this is where I have to be. But I was so unhappy there, and I had all my gut stuff and things going on as well. And I was really, really stressed, which was a driver of a lot of my own hormonal issues. But at the time, I didn't really understand that. And I heard this song, and it just spoke to me, because I see myself as a ocean-loving girl, and I wanted to just, I don't know, feel like I could go and do my thing and start my business and explore. And it just sort of resonated with me, going, actually, no, Sheradyn, you can leave. You don't have to be here, even though this feels like that pressure, that burden of, you know, being this young female and having to care for your family. But you can go, you can explore, you can do your own thing. And I did. I actually left Albany again, and that was quite a big moment for me, because it was like, actually, no, I'm going to do my thing, and that's going to take me back to Queensland, and that's going to be starting my business, and that's going to be starting to work on my own health and focus on me rather than feeling like I have to be the carer for everyone around me all the time. And now I still care for a lot of people on a bigger scale, but at the time it was kind of that stepping point of going from, being this daughter who has to do all the things to sort of going, okay, what does Sheradyn want and need right now? And that's to put her health first. Yeah. And that means stepping out of a situation that's actually a bit too heavy for me.
What a great story and a good reason. So, look, Sheradyn, it's been great having you on the show today. Thank you for your input. I really value that. And you can take things out today by introducing your song. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And this is Blue Eyes by Geordie Maxwell.